Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, another shootout among our unsheltered neighbors in a homeless encampment. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I love how so many people were saying we were going to get dragged into World War III. Mike, I've been working here for 4.5 wonderful years. I love my job, but let's count how many times the mainstream media and the Democrats, or anybody else for that matter, said we were going to get dragged into World War III. Let's see. There was when Russia invaded Ukraine. I remember that one. I remember that one very well. That was more people on the right yelling about it, but sure. There was after October 7th. There was that one. There was this whole Iran business. That's at least 3. There was India and Pakistan. That's 4. I'm tired of everybody saying we're going to get dragged into World War III. It's just to have clickbait. Anybody who said we were about to get dragged into World War III has not studied history, does not understand what's going on, and should not be taken seriously ever, ever, ever again. As I said yesterday, the strike on Iran by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration with the B-2 bombers taking out their nuclear facilities, was more akin to when the U.S., when Donald Trump took out Soleimani, the IRGC general, and the Quds Force general that Iran had back in 2020. It's more akin to that than anything else. And anybody who tells you differently does not understand history, does not understand the circumstances of what happened. So now there's a ceasefire. Now the war is over. Iran is absolutely decimated. Their nuclear program is in shambles. Their nuclear program is destroyed. And there's a lot of people on the woke right and the left who are eating a lot of crow today because they were so wrong. This is what peace through strength looks like. This is what America First looks like. And far too many people had too many bad takes about what was actually going on. Now, yesterday, we broke the news that Trump had announced a ceasefire, but Israel and Iran had not officially accepted it yet. So here's the timeline of what happened. Trump announces a ceasefire. He gives each side 6 hours to stop doing what they're doing. What normally happens at a ceasefire is everybody starts getting in as many shots as they possibly can. Israel starts taking out whatever's left of Iran that they possibly can of their military complex and nuclear sites. Iran shoots 5 ballistic missiles at Israel, targeting only civilians. One of the missiles impacts an apartment building right in one of the bomb shelters where a family was and kills 4 people. The deadline goes into effect, and then Iran launches another missile barrage. Trump says
another one.
Exactly. Trump says his deadline is in effect and says no more firing. 3 hours later, Iran launches another missile, which is intercepted. Israel says we're going to respond. And Trump publicly demands Israel not respond and that its planes turn around. Israel strikes a radar installation in Iran and comes back. Now, this is the stuff that anybody who studies what's going on in the Middle East, this is what normally happens. The Arab country breaks, or the Palestinians break the ceasefire, and then Israel responds, and then the ceasefire actually goes into effect. This is what always happens. Now, President Trump was amazing during this entire thing. The 4D chess, the playing dumb when he had to play dumb, the threatening when he needed to threaten, peace through strength. He was incredible. At the same time, though, President Trump is running on about maybe 2 hours of sleep last night, and he's understandably crabby. Understandably. And from his perspective, he's mad at everybody because he had a ceasefire. They violated the ceasefire. However you want to look at this, and he's on 2 hours of sleep, and he's got to go out to Europe, to NATO. He's got to go to Amsterdam first thing in the morning. So they see President Trump as he's boarding Marine One, and the media asks him a question.
I I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either.
So it's basically like two kids fighting in the backseat of the car. Don't hit your brother anymore. My parents used to say, sit on your hands. Sit on your hands. That's what you had to do, but you tried to get in that last slap before you had to sit on your hands. Yes, that's what this was. And Trump's mad at everybody because he hasn't gotten any sleep and he's got to get on an airplane. So then he says this little thing. I can kind of give that other thing a pass. I get it. He's frustrated. He's upset. I don't like the moral equivalency. And then he drops this.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Okay, so I understand the dude's tired. I get it. I understand he speaks from the gut. I get it. But the moral equivalency I'm not hot on. Iran carried out October 7th. Iran carried out all these attacks through their proxies. I don't like the comparison. But you know what? I can get over it. You know why I can get over it? Because Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons anymore. Because Iran doesn't have a military anymore. Because Iran doesn't have their secret police anymore. Because Iran has been so dilapidated, and a lot of that is thanks to the support and the help of President Trump. I can get past the comment. Plus, this thing is so meme-worthy, I can enjoy it. Like, for example, when the Mets are on a massive losing streak, and I look at them, and what do I say?
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I look at Disney. When Disney wants to make more Star Wars sequels and prequels, and I say...
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you
this was a
understand
meme that has now been going all over the internet. It's so meme-worthy. The question is, do you think that Israel should have been allowed to continue finishing the job? Do you think Israel did finish the job? Are you just tired of the whole thing and you're glad it's over? Do you think this was the best result? Me personally, I think this was a great result. I think this was a huge result. I think this is incredible. I think peace through strength. You completely took out the nuclear factories, the nuclear processing plants, the nuclear enrichment sites of Iran. You stopped them from getting the bomb. This is huge. Then CNN runs a report saying, well, you didn't actually take everything out and they can come online in a month. Wait. I'm confused. Last week, CNN said Iran's nowhere near getting the bomb. Then we bomb all these different facilities, and now CNN says they can have the bomb next week. You didn't accomplish anything. Which one is it, CNN? Which one is it? The White House and the Defense Department immediately come out and say the report that CNN's talking about is not accurate. Israel saying what CNN's talking about is not accurate. In fact, they're now concerned that if Iran tries to restart their nuclear program and tries to dig that stuff up, you're going to have an issue because there's so much uranium down there that you're going to have an ecological disaster. That's what they're concerned about now. So which one is it? Is it they were never close to getting the bomb, or is it, oh my God, they're really close to getting the bomb after you blew up the facilities? This is why President Trump called out CNN today.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that.
So, by the way, he's right. Which one is it? Is it that, oh, they're about to have the bomb, or they were never close to having the bomb? This is why people don't trust the mainstream media. And speaking of CNN, last night, oh dear, they had a former Obama staffer who was saying, oh, he never did anything like this. Are you kidding me?
United States, I worked for an anti-war president, and I saw, no, he was. He ran against.
How many countries did you bomb the crap out of?
Well, that's what I'm going to say,
Lord
Scott.
have mercy.
Like, no. Like you guys didn't just use bombs for diplomacy.
But
do
you want to put the scorecards up against each other?
I'm
between
happy
bombs
to put
and
up
drones?
scorecards.
You all are the key. Literally.
I got lots of scorecards.
The continuity that work.
I love that everybody, including Colonel West, is calling her out for that. I love that everybody is calling her out for trying to claim that. Are you kidding me? Yeah, this is why people don't trust the lamestream media. You bring on somebody who says something dumb like that. So once again, I ask you the question. Are you happy with the way things turned out? Do you think we could have gotten a better result of the way things turned out? Me personally, I'm pretty happy with all of this. I think this was the best possible result. I think that President Trump and Israel have completely obliterated Iran's nuclear ambitions. I think the problem now is the regime going to choose peace? Or is the regime going to say, we're back to our old ways, we're starting it all over again, and we don't care how long it takes, we're going to do it again? Are they all of a sudden going to enter the Abraham Accords? I don't think so with the Ayatollah. They're out there claiming victory and saying, we won, we defeated the great Satan. Really? Look around, guys. You feel like you won right now? It's like Bane walking in that Dark Knight Rises movie. Do you feel like you're in charge? Right, that's really what this is right now. Give me a break. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Paul and Puyallup. Paul, what's up?
Hey, this is the better Paul from yesterday. Hey, I am still angry.
Yeah, why are you angry today, Paul?
Freaking angry. Angry because he's cutting it in half. Nobody knows what the Iranians have or what we've done until we got boots on the ground. And then he goes ahead. Israel gets fired upon and doesn't have to respond. Get a life.
So I'm with you on that last part. I'm 100% with you on the last part. With regard to the boots on the ground, here's what I'm going to tell you that I know and what I'm speculating on. Hang on, then I'll let you finish. Okay, let me give you this, and then you can finish. Okay. So here's what I know. We know Mossad was on the ground while Israel was undergoing its offensive. Those guys didn't just hop planes and get out of there. We know there were boots on the ground before the U.S. bombed those facilities from Mossad and other Israeli intelligence agencies. I assume that the intelligence we're getting that these places were destroyed are from those guys. So the question I ask you, are you advocating for a full-scale invasion?
No. Yeah, with bombs. We got to finish these guys until they're complete. These guys, my money's on the Iranians. They're going to go back and start right back up. These guys are fanatics. They're nuts. The only way to stop them is put them all in the grave. Come on, Ari, would you turn Palestinian on me?
Oh, no. I'm agreeing with you personally, but here's the thing. I've kind of grown up in a world where I see the result we have right now, and I think this was the best we were going to get out of the situation. I wish we would keep going. I hope we keep going. But the problem is, I don't think it's actually going to happen. That's the difference. I have realistic expectations because of what's happened in the past. I'm agreeing with you, Paul. I think until you take out the Ayatollah, until the Iranians take out the Ayatollah, I don't think anything is going to change on the ground. I think they're going to be the same terror regime. I think they're going to stall for time. I think the world is going to say, oh, should we give him aid? Should we not give him aid? Should we help him out? And then all of a sudden they're going to be back at it again unless you see an actual regime change. I'll give you the last word, then I got to run.
The only way to stop them is put them in the Stone Age, not the Third World. Put them in the Stone Age. I mean, knock everything out so they cannot do a thing. And then isolate them from the oil.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to do it.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you, by the way, Paul. I completely agree with you. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the discussion. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up is you may want to play to breaking news because I've got something that news to break that's kind of exclusive to KVI.
You sent this to me earlier, Joe, but it's not for now. We're talking about Iran now. You want to talk about Bob Ferguson, don't you?
Yes, I do, and I want to brag about the fact that I didn't just file in the complaint that Bob Ferguson was campaigning against Initiative IL-26-126, but I also made clear I filed the complaint inspired by the fact that Bob Ferguson cannot tweet in support of Jews. He will not speak out against anti-Semitism. So I made sure he paid the price on that by having a PDC complaint with his name attached to it.
Well, thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to them for comment. I got your emails a little later today. I'm going to reach out to them for comment after the show today. I'll let you know if they have anything to share on that. Okay, buddy?
Yeah, and of course I fully appreciate the Israeli Air Force and the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy for hitting Iran. I'm like you. I think we should have kept going and forced regime change, took out the Ayatollah, et cetera, et cetera. But, maybe Donald Trump knows something we don't.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking right now. The question is, are these guys behind the scenes negotiating? Appreciate the call, Joe. Appreciate you being part of the show.
Yep.
You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Jeff in Kent says over on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, what are the chances enough political dissidents were released to have regime change? I actually think that's pretty good right now, and don't forget they don't have a police department in Tehran anymore. And because they don't have their secret police like they used to have them, now the question is, are the Iranians actually going to rise up and do their own regime change? Look, we may not want the Ayatollah there, but the U.S. doesn't want to have boots on the ground. Israel doesn't want to have boots on the ground and clearly doesn't have enough boots on the ground. There's only 9 million people living in Israel. There's 92 million people living in Iran. That's not going to go very well. So the question is, how exactly do you move forward? And unless the regime says we are done pursuing our nuclear ambitions, things are never going to get better. Until now, they've spent every single dollar they have on terrorism. I think this is a good outcome. I think this is a great outcome. And I'll tell you something else. President Trump has been nominated again for the Nobel Peace Prize because he stopped this conflict and because they stopped Iran's nuclear ambitions. What do you think the chances are that they'll give him a Nobel Peace Prize? He should have gotten one for the Abraham Accords. Probably should have gotten one for stopping the India-Pakistan war, but that was only a couple months ago. Let's not forget Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize.
Obama!
Exactly. Before he was even elected for accomplishing nothing. And yet this president has led peace through strength and then jets off to the NATO summit where everybody's pretty much in awe of him, including the people who hate his guts. This is a guy people want to make deals with. It's been a long time since we had an actual leader of the free world. I'm very proud, even with my disagreements with him, I'm very, very proud to call President Trump my president, our commander-in-chief. And I don't think this could have worked out any better right now than it has. Of course, there's things we can always hope for, but I think right now this is a great ending, and hopefully, the regime finally wakes up and realizes what's going on before we have to go back in there and blow them back to the Stone Age. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, a shootout among our unhoused neighbors at a local encampment. Just another day in Seattle. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I feel like we've done this story a dozen times before, but no, my friends, this is not old news. This is brand new. A man who was wounded last week during a shootout inside an RV at a South Seattle homeless encampment has now died of his injuries, according to Como. The shooting happened near 42nd Avenue South and Beacon Avenue South last Wednesday. Do you remember this story? This is the one where a guy went into an RV with a shotgun and blew somebody's head off. And when they said, they said they had to ventilate the guy, I said, that guy's not going to be alive. According to police, a 22-year-old man was shot in the head and suffered injuries he was not expected to survive. He was the victim who passed away this week. A different 42-year-old man was shot in the hip during the exchange of gunfire. Investigators say they have recovered 2 of the 3 guns they believe were used in the shootouts. No arrests have been made. People in the encampment told Como News they believe the shooting began as an attempted robbery. Terry Lee, who knows the victim who died, told the outlet, it was a planned robbery from the get-go. They planned on robbing the guy. The guy had every right to shoot back. Can we take a pause here for a second and just revisit a story we did yesterday? Remember yesterday that the far-left activists who are the Stop the Sweeps activists are the ones who want people living like this? They're the ones who want this violence. They're the ones who want the drug use. They're the ones who want nobody getting treatment and nobody getting shelter and nobody getting housing, but then they demand your taxes go to more housing. Can you square that circle for me for a second? By the way, I don't know if you've noticed this. I was talking to somebody about this recently. This was fascinating to me. Have you noticed there's less needles around Seattle? Less needles. And you say, oh, things are getting better. Nope. Because fentanyl is now the drug of choice, not heroin. And because there's a lot more fentanyl, you're seeing a lot more crack pipes around. Or you don't even need crack pipes. I mean, we've seen guys doing fentanyl out of a Doritos bag these days. Apparently it can withstand the heat. Yes, I see that all the time now. And why are we not cleaning up downtown Seattle right before an election? Because Bruce Harrell is worried that the lefties are going to get mad at him. It is the most disingenuous thing I've ever seen. Like clockwork. Mike knows. I've tracked this every time there's an election. Right before the election, around summertime, what happens? They start madly cleaning up all the RVs, all the homeless encampments. So you think, look how beautiful our city is. They're doing a good job. Not this time. Not this time. In fact, I'd say downtown is worse. The other night, when my wife and I came down here to go to the balloon festival, the balloon event at Seattle Center, as we were driving down 4th Avenue, my God, you pass by Westlake Center. Homeless people all over the place. I think, Mike, you don't go that way anymore, do you? You come in the back way, right? I go down 4th Avenue some days, so I go down 4th Avenue.
Honestly, that's part of what's influenced my decision. I do the 99 tunnel anymore. It's usually faster from where we're at Lower Queen Anne. It's faster for me to hit the tunnel rather than to go all the way up to 5th to make it all the way down. And now that it's the revenge of Revive I-5, who knows what the freeway is going to be doing. So long story short, I usually dip in the tunnel, but part of that is like, I don't want to see it.
So you're going to laugh at how I decide which route to take. It depends which car I'm driving. My car,
that makes sense.
My car is tied to the toll system. But the EV that I'm borrowing from my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, the Jeep Wagoneer, which I'm absolutely loving, I don't have my tolls registered to that sucker. So because of that, I'm on 4th Avenue when I'm taking the EV. And when I'm driving on 4th Avenue, more often than not, I see an ambulance helping somebody at Westlake Center. I see those guys with the neon vest. No, not the Antifa guys with the neon vest. The ones that are paid by the city. No, not the Antifa guys. No, I see the ambassadors from the city wandering around with their little bikes, accomplishing absolutely nothing. This is the kind of stuff I see all the time. 4th Avenue, sometimes traffic stop because some dude is standing in the middle of 4th Avenue. The city's not dealing with any of this. Peter Easy, who's a business owner who operates a repair shop near the encampment. Oh, my God, I know exactly which business is his. He says the encampment has just taken over the area. He said, I worked with a few people from the city of Seattle. They were very helpful in the beginning, but the issue is they can clean it up, but it follows right behind. There's just more and more and more, and you can only get so many emails. They probably have more hotspots than you can imagine. Yes, think about what's going on near your house. Somebody was asking me from the East Coast not too long ago. They said, Ari, is the homeless situation really as bad as you say it is in Seattle? And this person lives in L.A., so realize who I'm talking to. And I said, well, you tell me, because I know what I see when I go to L.A., but let me tell you what I see here in Seattle. The problem is it's not a certain area where the homeless are. The homeless can pop up anywhere. So any area can all of a sudden become a bad neighborhood. And this person said to me, well, it's a little different in LA. What happens is they check in, but they don't check out. So what happens is it's the same thing where they'll pop up anywhere, but then these neighborhoods that used to be really, really nice neighborhoods, nothing ever gets done about it. And then they just fester and grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, at least our school system's good, right? Right? Here in Seattle, Seattle Public Schools doing, nope, hit by another lawsuit. According to King 5, a former Nathan Hale High School student said she was a freshman when her classmates began accusing her of supporting genocide in Gaza. Oh, how tolerant, how welcoming. She said, I felt scared and personally attacked. I lost a lot of friends. She asked to remain anonymous, fearing unwanted attention from her new school. In a lawsuit filed by her family last week, the teen alleged she was subjected to rampant anti-Semitism through the 2023-2024 school year following Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel. The complaint includes 2 photos of swastikas found on campus and accuses the school's principal and vice principal, William Jackson and Michaela Stewart Monroe, of failing to meaningfully intervene or protect the student. The student's mother said, I felt totally helpless. It's horrible. I remember appealing to the principal. Time and time again, asking him, how old is your daughter? What if somebody was saying something like this to your daughter? The lawsuit outlines multiple incidents of harassment, including a student spitting on her, death threats, and anti-Semitic remarks such as Hitler's plan should have worked and I hate the Jews. In her statement to King 5, Seattle Public Schools said in part, SPS will review and address these allegations. The district remains dedicated to creating an inclusive and equitable environment for all students and does not tolerate racism, discrimination, or violence in any form. Really? Aren't you guys the ones who are still pushing DEI? Isn't that racism against anybody who's not one of your protected classes? Also, this is not unique to Nathan Hale. We have seen issues like this in how many schools? Don't get me started on Garfield. Garfield discriminates against anybody who isn't in line with Antifa and BLM. So give me a break when you say something like that, Seattle Public Schools. King 5 asked the district whether any steps have been taken to address anti-Semitism on campus. As of Monday evening, the district had not responded to any specific questions, which is funny because I sent them a request for comment and they sent me that same canned response and didn't address my questions either. Because the truth is they probably didn't do anything, and anybody who files a public disclosure request will find out they didn't do anything, and that's going to cost them a lawsuit. By the way, they deserve to get sued up the wazoo because according to the complaint, several students went to the girl's classes throughout the day trying to lure her into the hallway. 20 students gathered outside her classroom demanding she come out, and her teacher had to lock the door. She had to be escorted to the office by a security guard, and the school didn't address any of this? Seattle, imagine if it was a black kid. Imagine if it was a black kid. Imagine if it was a Hispanic kid. Imagine if it was a kid whose family are illegal immigrants. They'd be surrounded by the governor and the superintendent of the school district. Yeah, we're going to follow this story with great interest. When we come back, my friends, the people in Washington, D.C. are losing their minds now that peace is at hand between Iran and Israel, and some Democrats are even defecting over to the Republican side on this issue. We'll give you details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. So you know how we said at the beginning of this Trump administration that the Democrats couldn't keep up with President Trump? The same thing is happening right now. So what happens this morning / last night? You've got a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and it looks like it's holding right now. It was a little shaky at first, but it looks like it's holding. But meanwhile, Democrats, including our very own representative, Adam Smith, are pushing forward with efforts to have a war powers vote. Okay, guys, I may not like the way things work right now, where presidents are circumventing congressional authority, even though they're not really, but that's one way to read the Constitution, the way you guys are doing it. I hear it. But here's the thing. You want all the hypocrisy of Barack Obama, who dropped, 28,000 bombs during his time in office? How many people did he drone during his time in office? You really want to do this with every single president? When Bill Clinton was having issues with the Lewinsky thing, it was always, hey, let's fire a few missiles at Iraq. Let's go mess with Saddam Hussein. Saturday Night Live even did spoofs, skits, making fun of that, given how transparently obvious it was. So now they're pushing for a vote to require congressional approval for any further military action against Iran. We're done, guys. We're done. After one strike, we are done. Israel did most of the work. They did most of the work after the bombing, too. But we did one bombing, peace through strength. And you guys are really pushing forward with this? Do you know how stupid you look right now? We don't like that he brought peace. We don't like that he stopped the conflict with one bombing. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. By the way, this made me rethink some things. Let's go back to Iraq when George W. Bush was president. So let's say you said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. That was the big claim, right? That was the big claim. Why did you have to go in? Why couldn't you bomb the storehouses? Why couldn't you bomb the factories? Because Israel did that in 1980. Took out the Osirak reactor in Iraq. Did that and denied Saddam Hussein the bomb. Why did you have to send in hundreds of thousands of guys to Iraq? By the way, when we're talking about the neocon movement, and I know that word's people are calling me a neocon, a warmonger, because I'm in favor of one bombing. Did I ever say, Mike, you could just nod or whatever, because you're happy in there. You could just nod your head. Did I ever say there should be boots on the ground? Ever. Not during this entire thing. No, I didn't. Not Israeli, not American. But yet the Democrats are behind again. So we've already moved on to peace, and now we're doing this. Now, meanwhile, Squad Queen, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is now trying to impeach Donald Trump over the U.S. strikes. How dare you bring about peace? We're going to impeach you for bringing about peace. Donald Trump responds the only way Donald Trump knows how in a Truth Social post. Stupid AOC. One of the dumbest people in Congress is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of our country being successful again. He said the reason for her rantings is all of the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. He added that her test scores will show she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett, who is seriously low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country. Yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated one of the worst in the world if it's even rated at all. Now, here's something kind of funny to me. AOC tries to talk tough. AOC says, I could take a guy from Queens. I'm from the Bronx. She literally tweeted that out, by the way. She literally posted that. And then I thought, here's what she actually wrote, not me paraphrasing. She wrote, I'm a Bronx girl. You should know that we can eat Queens boys for breakfast, respectfully. That was her response. We're governed by children, by the way. That's her response. Point of order here. So, you know how I went to school in Manhattan, but I didn't grow up in Manhattan? Okay. I grew up near where AOC actually grew up. AOC grew up in Westchester County. Westchester County is about 30 minutes north of New York City. She grew up in Yorktown Heights. Average home price, $650,000, and prices on home can exceed $1 million. Average income, $159,000. 90.49% white. That's the neighborhood she grew up in. White-collar workers, 86.61%. You're not from the hood, AOC, any more than I am. Wait, actually, I can make a case that I am. I will tell you how. Here we go. Mike's laughing because he's like, you mean the guy with the fake cowboy boots? That guy's going to make the claim that he's from the hood? I'm making your jokes for you right here, buddy. So how am I going to claim this? I lived in the Bronx. I did live in the Bronx. When my mother moved to the Bronx for 3 years while I was in college. So technically my stuff was in the Bronx, and my wife and I lived in the Bronx for 11 months when we first got married. There we go. I've lived in the Bronx longer than AOC. That's right, the suburban guy from Westchester. Lived in the Bronx longer than AOC. Unbelievable. We're governed by children. Now, speaking of low IQ Jasmine Crockett, she was at a fundraiser the other day, and my God, is there any public official who isn't going to drop the F-bomb today? She's all mad. And poor Mike has to do all the censoring of all these audio clips. She's all mad that President Trump didn't consult her before going and blowing up the nuclear facilities. Yes, this is the person you want to consult, right?
And to understand enough about the Constitution to the extent that I'm the one that's supposed to make the decision or at least get a vote.
Your own party doesn't want you. There was just a leadership position up for vote, and they didn't want you. If we want somebody to yell and scream about nonsense, we will contact you. We will contact AOC. Can we deal with some serious people? By the way, you know it'd be great if Trump had taken Fetterman with him to NATO. I don't know why. It just would have been funny. With everybody there in the suits and Fetterman wandering around in the sweatshirt and the shorts, I would have found that entertaining. What some people didn't find entertaining was the flags that were out at Lumen Field yesterday. When we come back, we're going to tell you what the Sounders just decided regarding having flags at the stadium in response to what happened and how it conflicts with something that FIFA told me yesterday. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Okay, this is an odd story that is getting odder by the minute that I'm not really understanding. Yesterday I had a little bit of information, and the more information I get in this story, the more confusing and hypocritical it gets. So yesterday, they had the World Cup Club match, or the FIFA Club World Cup match at Lumen Field, and the Sounders were playing. Now, I don't recall them playing against anybody from Palestine or Israel or anything like that, but the Sounders, the Emerald City supporters, who are one of their crazy soccer clubs, held up a whole bunch of Palestinian flags. Now, many of you may not know who the Emerald City supporters are. I did a little bit of investigating of their website yesterday. If there is a far-left radical cause, they take it on. These guys are affiliated with Antifa. A few years ago, there was a brouhaha because they had Antifa flags in the stadium. And when people complained, they said, no, freedom of speech, you get to keep your crazy flags, you lunatics. So even though this was during the Summer of Love and all that other insanity, they still got to keep their Antifa flags in the stadium. So yesterday, I see this sea of Palestinian flags, and I reached out to FIFA for comment. Now, I didn't turn this into a story because FIFA gave me a reasonable comment. They really did. They said, Palestine, it's not a country, but whatever. They said Palestine gets to compete in the World Cup, so their flag is allowed to be there. And I said, well, what about Israel? And they said Israel gets to be there because they compete in the World Cup. And by the way, that took all the air out of my sails. Completely took the air out of my sails because you can't really argue with that. I mean, I could get into legislation over what's a country, what's not. But you know what? They're a soccer organization, and I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not that crazy, okay? We're not going to do that today. They play soccer. That's what they do. Sir, this is a Wendy's, okay? We can do that. But then I find out from this article in the Seattle Times that the Sounders have announced an updated fan code of conduct that prohibits the flags of either Israel or Palestine inside of Lumen Field. So hang on a second. You don't ban the Antifa flag, but now, because of the complaints against this, you're also banning the Israeli flag? Mike, have you've been to a lot of football games. You've probably been to more football games than I have. And by that, I mean American football. I don't mean soccer. Have you ever seen an Israeli flag in that place? Ever?
Oh, man, I got to ask my buddy Dr. Evil about that.
How about no?
Exactly.
You know what? American football fans just watch the game. There's no ole, 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 your goalie needs a latte.
Yeah.
Nobody's waving flags, none of that chanting or any of that other nonsense that you get with soccer. We just drink beers and eat bad food.
And catch hot dogs from the Bratzuka.
From the Bratzuka. Yes, exactly. The most wonderful marvel of modern engineering, the Bratzuka that shoots hot dogs like a Gatling gun.
It's amazing.
It's my favorite thing in the world. But no flags on that.
No flags at all, except on the field. And the 12th man flag, that's about it. You got the American flag, the 12th man flag, I get that.
Yeah.
But that's what you have at a football game, and by that I mean American football. That's what you have at a Seahawks game. What is this nonsense? Also, why are you banning the Israel one? I got to say, look, and guys, I'm playing devil's advocate here. We are the most pro-devil show on the radio. They took all the wind out of my sails yesterday by saying, if they get to compete, they get a flag. That's a fair statement. Now you're banning the Israeli one because people are complaining about the Palestinian one? If you had given the statement you gave to me, that would be fine. Now, here's another interesting thing. During the commercial break, when I saw this story, I reached out to the guy I spoke to yesterday from FIFA, and he goes, what are you talking about? We haven't banned the Palestine flag. It's still allowed. So he says that for MLS games, this could be the case. So wait a second. Hang on. So the code of conduct for the Sounders applies to the soccer games, but not the World Cup games, which are being held in your stadium? Now I'm really confused. I mean, am I getting too worked up about this? But here's the thing. What are they going to ban next? And they still haven't banned the Antifa flag, a group that took over 6 blocks of Seattle, where 6 people were shot, 2 people were killed. Do we all remember that? That flag's allowed? If you say all flags are allowed, then all flags are allowed, and I have very little things I can say. Then you say it's a freedom of speech thing, and we don't want to discriminate. But by saying we're banning this one and that one and none of the others? So let me ask you this. No, seriously, I'm not advocating for this. If I came in there with a Nazi flag, is that going to be banned or is that going to be allowed? What about a Confederate flag? What do you got? Okay, we could go down the list here. Now I'm kind of confused by the entire policy. Am I getting too worked up about this? Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757.
Well, I think it's the specificity of it that bothers me, the specific exclusion. Whether you agree with those exclusions or not, it should be all or nothing.
Yeah, that's it.
And in this case, given the examples that you just... No flags.
No flags.
That's what you get for chewing gum in class. Nobody gets to chew gum now. No flags.
Exactly.
I'm fine with that.
Exactly.
And
You're all done.
stop it with the chants.
Yes, it's all stupid. This is why This is one of the many, many, many reasons I don't like soccer. I mean, soccer's exhausting to play. It's actually kind of fun when you're a kid, but watching it, it's more exhausting to watch. Not my jam. And by the way, when this picture went up, so many of you said, yeah, yet another reason I gave up my Sounders tickets. A lot of you were actually saying that yesterday. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Got some breaking news for you when we come back. Looks like Washington has a massive budget shortfall. You mean even after the Democrats passed the largest tax increase in state history? We'll give you the details when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, looks like Washington is facing another massive budget shortfall because Democrats don't know how to use a calculator or do math. That's what you get when you have Common Core. But because we know you're going to need the money soon enough, it is time for KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash, my friends. This week, you can get away to Key West, Florida, with dinner in Margaritaville, sunsets at Mallory Square, and no car needed. Or you can have the chance at $3,000 in cold, hard cash. All you have to do is text the word I give you. Just the word I give you. No other words. Not your name, not your phone number, not your address. No other information. You text the word I give you to the number I give you. Do not call the number. And then you will be entered in our daily drawing to get a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. And you could win the trip or keep the cash with KVI. Today's word is waves. As in W-A-V-E-S, as in this show makes waves, as in that theme park near here is called Wild Waves. That's right, text the word waves to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-57. Oh, it's got me. It's got me. Mike, help me. It's got me. Yes, text the keyword waves to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You have until 5 o'clock to enter. Your next chance at winning comes tomorrow at 8 a.m. during the morning ride. Remember to check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. Mike, we should just keep that going through the whole show. It sounds great, right? It's kind of relaxing, kind of soothing, kind of offsets the psychoness of me from time to time. Mike's thinking this is the most mellow it's ever been here before. This is actually kind of nice. Look at this. Yes, so remember, you have until 5 o'clock to text the word waves to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears over to something else that's making waves around here. Got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
The latest Washington revenue forecast from the Washington State Economic and Revenue Forecast Council was just announced just a few minutes ago. And it projects revenue over the next 4 years to be $720 million lower than the legislature assumed in its budget. Hang on. I want to make sure I got this right. So you guys manufactured a budget gap. Yes, you manufactured it. We never had a budget gap. We had a spending problem. You guys spent the entire legislative session changing the numbers. Well, it's going to be $6 billion. Well, it's going to be $7 billion. Well, it's going to be $8 billion. Well, it's going to be $10 billion. Well, it's going to be $12 billion. Well, it's going to be $14 billion. It's going to be $16 billion. Yes, you can only have a budget gap that's an even number. That is what they did in Olympia. They scared us for how long? 4 months. In fact, before that, 5 months right after Ferguson gets elected. 5 months. They said, what do you know? There's this massive budget gap. There was never a budget gap. It was always a spending problem. So what'd they do in response? Bob Ferguson initially announces he's going to do $4 billion worth of cuts. And the Democrats don't like that one bit. So they say, nope, no to your cuts. We're going to make your life a living hell. So Bob Ferguson instead signs a massive budget, which includes $9 billion in new taxes, the largest tax increase in Washington state history. He cuts, instead of $4 billion, he cuts $25 million, which, as we have been finding out, goes to pay for essential services, which he said weren't going to be cut, like the infants who are born addicted to drugs because Democrats won't separate them from their drug addict parents. Yes, Democrats are terrible when you run a state. We go from a state that had a budget surplus to now states that have budget gaps and now shorter than expected revenue forecasts, lower revenue forecasts. Thanks a lot, Democrats. You're doing great because you know what's going to happen. They're going to come to us for our money. And by the way, those numbers are going to go down. In fact, or I should say up. That gap is going to get bigger. Those numbers are going to get bigger. Do you remember the theory I gave you on Friday? So Microsoft and Amazon announced more layoffs, but I notice a lot of those layoffs are in our area here. I think Microsoft and Amazon, the companies that were among those that threatened to leave Washington state if the Democrats passed that huge payroll tax, which they ended up doing, I think they're already on their way out. So what's going to happen is the same thing that happened to the city of Seattle. When Seattle taxed the payrolls and Amazon left, all of a sudden you've got millions of dollars that you don't have anymore. So Seattle had a bigger budget gap than they thought. It went from $250 million to close to $300 million. So that means they're going to look at what happened in the Washington state legislature and go, well, the dum-dums in Washington always vote for tax increases, so let's just tax the people in Seattle more to fix our problem because that's what Olympia did. So now you've got $720 million over the next 4 years. You want to make some bets on how much it's actually going to be? My bet is it's probably going to be $1 billion, $2 billion once you factor in how much revenue you lose when people leave town, when these employees of Amazon and Microsoft leave town, when those companies leave town, when other companies you didn't even know were considering leaving leave town. What does the turd say about all this? While this revenue forecast is disappointing, it is not surprising. We knew that things were unlikely to improve in the near term, especially in light of continued chaos from the Trump administration. Wait, what? You're blaming Trump for this. Just making sure I got that right. So for the Democrats Trump isn't the one who spent a lot of money on these self-service stations like Rain City Jacks. Trump wasn't the one who spent the money on the laser hair removal surgery for trans inmates. In fact, he's the one who said, stop with that nonsense. They're not the ones spending money on every activist group in town, including the ones that are running these protests and riots all around Seattle. That's you guys. That's the Democrats. And you're blaming Trump for this? Wait, what else does he say here? It is particularly discouraging, even given the current efforts by the Trump administration to make draconian cuts to... No. I'm not buying into your lies. They're complete BS. Complete nonsense. He says, if those move forward, it'll mean billions of dollars in cuts impacting our most vulnerable residents, rather than actually stating that, wait, hang on a second. Let's go back in time. Bob Ferguson's disagreeing with Bob Ferguson. So, just a few months ago, he was saying he wanted to make $4 billion worth in cuts. That's what he said. He didn't do it because the Democrats threatened him. So now he's going to say, well, we have to tax everybody. We're going to have to tax you more. We're going to have to tax those corporations more. And he's going to blame Trump the whole time. And how many local Democrats are going to believe it? My guess is a lot. He says, my team is still analyzing this information in this forecast. At this time, I do not anticipate calling a special session. We are closely monitoring developments from the federal government that could force me to revisit that question. Oh, really? We also carefully review the next revenue forecast in September. You know what, Bob? You already found $4 billion worth of cuts. Why don't you just make them? Why don't you just make them? And with the tax increases you just signed, you'll have a $3 billion surplus. Look at that. I can do math. Look how easy that was. 4 minus 1 equals 3. That was really, really tough. Would you like me to help out with the budget process? The Republicans came up with a balanced budget that didn't raise taxes because there was no budget gap. You guys had a spending problem. If you cut these non-essential services instead of the essential services and spending more money, you might actually solve this problem. He says, as we begin preparing to draft my first budget, OFM has already communicated to agencies they need to look for additional savings. This will not be easy. We already made many difficult decisions last session in order to bridge our $16 billion. Oh, there it is, the lie again. The lie again. Our $16 billion budget shortfall. You didn't cut what you needed to cut. There were $4 billion worth of cuts. You cut $25 million. That's it. So now he says, oh, we're going to live within our means and still deliver core services. You're not delivering core services. You're not living within your means. You signed the last budget, you liar. You signed it. You signed it. So spare me your nonsense. By the way, anybody from the Washington State Legislature who's listening to the show right now and wants to weigh in on this nonsense, give us a call. 206-421-5757 or text us at 206-421-5757 because this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. You know what else they're going to be asking for? Here's a good one for you. This one, according to My Northwest, the University of Washington unanimously voted to approve the university's operating budget for 2026 fiscal year. The UW Board of Regents approved the budget, which included a $19 million negative cash flow projection for the school's intercollegiate athletics department. You think maybe that has to do with the Big Ten Conference? Maybe? Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, it says, as the UW has begun its early years in the Big Ten Conference, stadium renovation debt, rising athletic travel costs, and the House versus NCAA antitrust settlement remain key factors in the university's operating budget decisions. The university projected it will make $158 million in revenue throughout fiscal year 26. However, the Huskies expect $198 million in operating expenses. So now, are they going to tax us to pay for the Huskies on top of all this? My guess is yes. Yeah. So to make up the deficit, UW Athletic Department requested additional loan assistance and extensions, which include a $17.7 million loan from the university's Capital Assets Pool Program, a financial stability plan waiver extension, a $10 million interest-free loan from the Big Ten, institutional support from non-state and non-tuition sources. Eventually, they're going to come knocking on our door. Just wait, just watch. Guarantee that is what's going to happen. Guaranteed. Just watch. These guys can never get enough of your money. Anytime there's a budget shortfall, anytime there's a budget gap, it's always coming after you. Speaking of things that are coming after you, I kind of laughed at this article I saw from Como News. Homeland Security officials are warning Americans of a heightened threat environment in the U.S. after attacks in Iran, including potential violence and cyber attacks. However, the director of the Washington State Fusion Center said Monday there are no known credible threats in our state. Really? Because Antifa still hasn't gone anywhere, and you still have a whole bunch of Hamasniks literally on your campus at University of Washington. But there's no terror threats in this state. Nope, we're just breeding them. Oh, that's not a threat. That's just baked into the cake at this point, right? Pete Stock, said director, would know. He's in charge of Washington State's hub on information about suspicious activity reports in the area. I got a question. I see all this stuff on social media. I see all this garbage on social media. Are you guys addressing any of that? Really? Because I see all the Hamasnik and Antifa and BLM and all that other insanity. Are you guys addressing any of that? Any of it? Did you guys see that whole thing happen at UW, the $1 million worth of damage? Did you see that coming? Located in downtown Seattle, the Fusion Center is owned and operated by the state and is a focal point for the receipt analysis, gathering, and sharing of threat-related information. Wait, if they're owned and operated by the state, you know what that likely means? That likely means they're looking for people like me. What's Hoffman up to today? What are those conservatives up to today? Where's the domestic violent extremism task force we established to keep tabs on Hoffman and his friends? We would have gotten away with everything, too, if it hadn't been for you journalists. Right? Like, that's what's going on. You have any confidence these guys are actually keeping eye on terrorist threats? We literally have homegrown ones. We literally have ones we're importing. We literally have ones we're educating around here. We have ones we're releasing from prison. Stock said many people may not be aware of the existence or their mission, and that the centers are nationwide and were born out of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Their ultimate mission is to prevent terrorism, but you let a whole bunch of people shut down a freeway? But you let a whole bunch of people take over a school at University of Washington? But you let domestic terrorists take over 6 blocks of the largest city in Seattle? I'm seeing a running trend here of things you guys missed. They said the purpose being, let's bring together federal, state, and local resources to share information to prevent terrorism. What we are looking for is unusual behavior. I'm not talking about race, religion, or ethnicity. We are looking for suspicious behavior that might compromise critical infrastructure. You mean like blocking a freeway for 6 hours when first responders were trapped in that mess along with everybody else? Let's see what they're supposed to be watching. Banking. So you looking at Antifa's finances? They're domestic terrorists. How about BLM's? Government continuity. Well, you kind of abandon the police precinct in the Chaz chop zone, right? Transportation and transit systems. Well, you guys didn't do anything about that freeway being blocked, did you? Water. Well, you made sure the autonomous zone got water. Communications, internet systems. Well, the homeless people are stealing from the internet systems and communication. Have you done anything about that? Since the Iran conflict, Stock says the center's analysts have been sifting through an uptick of tips about suspicious activity. The Department of Homeland Security warned Sunday of hacktivists and Iranian government-affiliated actors who routinely target poorly secured U.S. networks and internet-connected devices for disruptive cyber attacks. Oh, you mean like when Nigerian scammers stole over $1 billion from Washington's unemployment department? Did you guys not see that one coming either? Probably not, because they didn't expect Jay Inslee to be stupid enough to take all the restrictions off the fund. I got a question, by the way, for everybody. Do you think that at this point Bob Ferguson is a worse governor than Jay Inslee? Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Seems like the Fusion Center has completely failed in its mission because it's completely ignoring domestic terror attacks. Completely ignoring it. So the question is, what are they actually spending their time on instead? Doesn't seem like they're very bright over there at the Fusion Center, but one of the reasons kids aren't going to be so bright around here is because now they're only going to have a 4-day school week. Yes, according to the Olympian, some Tri-City students will have Fridays off beginning this fall. Oh, isn't that nice? You going to make up the time somewhere else? Nope. The Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction has approved a waiver for Findlay School District to alter its 2025-26 school year calendar, giving students a 3-day weekend. The move is part of a strategy to help the small Benton County School District correct a $1 million budget gap. So let me make sure I got this right. To correct a budget gap, likely because a lot of students are leaving the district in Benton County, you guys are now saying instead of cutting spending, you want to cut a day of school. So the kids that suffered learning loss because of COVID and the 2 years of shutdown, you're now going to take another day away from them? How do you think that's going to work out? In fact, this is only going to make your budget problems worse. You know why? Because most parents are going to say, that's it, no more. How can my kid compete when they're literally having 1 day less a week? They're already having less in-class hours. They're already being hit with all the DEI nonsense. They're already being hit with all these other problems. And now you want to cut a day out of the school week? That's your plan? Not, hey, let's consolidate some of these things. Hey, let's put a few things. No. You want to cut a day out of the school week. Benton County, if you're listening, you want to pull your kids out of that district right away. Here, let's just go back to the 1990s for a minute when I was in high school. Public schools in New York City got out at 2:30, 3 o'clock every single day. My private school, I was in school till 4:45 before extracurricular activities. That's already hours per week of more education I was getting than the other kids in public schools. Who do you think got a better education? What about the kids around here? What time they get out around here? 2:30, 3 o'clock also? The kids in the private schools are getting out at 4 o'clock. They're already getting more education. They were back in the classrooms sooner because of COVID. So were the charter schools. Homeschool kids were always in the classroom. So the public school kids, they are doing everything they possibly can to make sure they get a worse education. What's going to happen is more kids are going to leave the district. And when more kids leave the district, they're going to say, okay, we need to make more cuts because we don't get as much federal money anymore. And eventually, either they're going to cut more school days till what? We're down to 1 day a week and the rest is remote learning. Learn on your own time whenever you feel like it. That'll work out fine, especially given how good our school scores are around here, right? Our testing scores, oh, right, I forgot they absolutely suck. 2/3 of kids around here are not at grade level. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. But you know what's even crazier, my friends? When we come back, a Muslim communist who's a terror supporter is about to become the mayor of New York City. He's got a really good chance, and we'll tell you how you can stop it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the King County Fair. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Don't forget, you have until 5 o'clock to enter the keyword I gave you at 4 o'clock for your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. No, I'm not giving you the word again. You have to wait until 8 a.m. to get a new word during the morning ride with Phil and Zach. Could New York, about to be on the verge of electing, a socialist, terrorist-supporting lunatic, a communist, terrorist-supporting lunatic? Yeah, it could actually happen. Why is everybody paying so much attention to a Democratic primary? Because New York City is very, very stupid, and they always vote for whoever's the Democrat. They're a lot like Washington. So whoever wins the Democratic primary is most likely going to be the person who wins the election for mayor of New York City. Can you imagine if we went back in time? Can you imagine if we went back in time and we fired up the old time machine and we got in the DeLorean and we went back and we go back to, I don't know, let's pick a random day all of a second. How about September 12th, 2001 for a second? The day after the 9/11 terror attacks. How about we go back then? And we say to any New Yorker, hey, in the year 2025, you know what's going to happen? New York City is going to elect a Muslim terrorist supporter who's also a radical communist as mayor. They would think you are absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But that could be what's about to happen. What's fascinating is, according to the polls, this guy who claims he's all about the working class, you know who's going to be the ones voting for him? The white college-educated people. The elites are going to be the ones supporting this guy, whereas the working class wants nothing to do with him because they know how bad socialism is. You know who doesn't understand this? Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, Ella Emhoff. Ella Emhoff posted a video today about how excited she was to vote for the socialist. Man, we really dodged a bullet with this family.
You know, I'm feeling a little trauma walking to the same polling station that I did to vote for Kamala. And, you know, I'm just feeling a lot of hope right now. We did it. I'm feeling a huge mix of emotions. I'm really nervous, but I'm also so hopeful. It's been so spectacular seeing New York come together in this way and rally behind Zoran. And yeah, let's fucking do this, guys.
Oh, missed that one right there. Okay, so you've got Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, Ella Emhoff, saying that she's voting for the communist activist. The communist who is the one who wants to support terror organizations even after everything that happened at Columbia. That's the one. Now, mind you, this guy Zoran has made it very, very clear what he wants to do. Here's one of his plans. He says that he wants to get rid of admissions testing for elite public schools, which means anybody can go to these schools. Look, let me tell you something. It'd be really fun for me to be a mathematician, but I suck at math. It'd be really, really fun for me to be a contractor who designs, an architect who designs buildings. But you know what? I'm not good at the math. I would really love to perform surgery, but you know what? I'm not really good with the biology. That's why you need these kind of exams, to make sure the people who are good at these things perform these things. Would you like a pilot who didn't do very well on his exams and you said, you know what? We feel bad for you. Go ahead and be a pilot. Go ahead and be a pilot. No problem whatsoever. So that's just the tip of the iceberg with this guy. This is the same guy. This is the same guy who said he wants to socialize all the grocery stores. This is a guy who wants socialist grocery stores where they're run by the government. That's your plan? That's what you want to do? Run by the government? That worked out real well for the Soviet Union, didn't it? Yeah, right. That's why they had bread lines. Oh, we could go with the Bernie Sanders answer. Well, at least there's bread. So they have ranked choice voting in New York. And what ranked choice voting means is that when you vote for a guy and your guy gets knocked out, you have ranked the other candidates. So they go, okay, who'd you vote for second? Are they still in? Who'd you vote for third? Are they still in? All the way down. So what the campaign is right now is don't even rank Zoran Mamdani, because then he gets bumped up if somebody else gets knocked out. This is a really ridiculous system, by the way. What happened to one person, one vote? So what happens in this case is that now Andrew Cuomo is trailing this guy. Well, maybe if you guys had put up somebody other than Andrew Cuomo who actually had viability, this guy Brad Landers or whatever, the only thing he knows for is being arrested by ICE. The current mayor has no chance whatsoever. He's an independent. Everybody hates his guts. But what was fascinating to me was that the Chicago Tribune wrote a great op-ed. The Chicago Tribune wrote an op-ed of, we had one of the worst mayors in America in Lori Lightfoot, and we had an opportunity to get somebody new in here who could actually run a city. The Chicago Tribune is like the Seattle Times. And they talk about how bad Mayor Johnson is, this guy who's got a 6% approval rating, 6% in Chicago. And he has really flushed that city more and more down the toilet than anybody thought was possible. So now, with regards to that guy, even the Chicago Tribune is saying, New Yorkers, you can't be this stupid. Is this really the guy you want to elect? But here's what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is the Trump effect. So anytime a pendulum swings one way, it also swings back the other way. And a lot of people are going to be saying, well, you know, we want something that's opposite of Donald Trump. And a lot of people in New York are going to say, well, we want something that's different. So you go with the socialist? You could go with Cuomo. He's gone head-to-head with Trump before. In fact, he was known for it during COVID. He was wrong about everything. But if you want somebody who's gone head-to-head with Trump, pick Cuomo. Not that I'm endorsing Cuomo. He'll kill your grandparents during COVID. But meanwhile, they're picking this lunatic, this guy who is supporting the riots at Columbia, this guy who is supporting the terrorist lunatics on the streets of New York City, this guy who is saying he wants socialism, communism everywhere in New York City. You know how close New York is to the edge? I think polls are going to be closing while we're still on air. I'm going to double check that today. But my friends, if you live in New York, you have to vote. You have to get out as soon as possible. You have to get out and make sure that this guy is not ranked and make sure this guy doesn't win, even if it means voting for Andrew Cuomo. Because can you imagine what signal that would send to the rest of the country if the communist, Muslim, terrorist supporter gets elected? That's pretty horrifying. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Alligator Alcatraz is a go, and it's going to be sponsored by the feds. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, which is why you should always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. Don't forget, you can also stream video of the show every single weekday on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and, of course, over on X. Yet another fun way to enjoy the Ari Hoffman Show. Now, remember last week we told you about this awesome new project they have down in Florida?
Attorney General James Uthmeyer here at the Miami-Dade Collier Training Facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. Florida's been leading on immigration enforcement, supporting the Trump administration and ICE's efforts to detain and deport criminal aliens. The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. This 30 square mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. If people get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Within just 30 to 60 days after we begin construction, it could be up and running and could house as many as 1,000 criminal aliens. This presents a great opportunity for the state of Florida to work with Miami-Dade and Collier counties. Alligator Alcatraz, we're ready to go.
I guess if you have a fun name and a video that goes viral, you can get funded by the Department of Homeland Security. Because now they're actually going to fund this thing, which I think is very entertaining. And Kristi Noem told CBS News, under President Trump's leadership, we're working at turbo speed on cost-effective and innovative ways to deliver on the American people's mandate for mass deportation of criminal, illegal aliens. We will expand facilities and bed space in just days, thanks to our partnership with Florida. This is actually kind of awesome. The Everglades facility, and other sites across Florida will collectively be able to hold up to 5,000 detainees and could begin operations as early as July. He described the centers as temporary, because you're trying to kick them out of the country. Now, I have a question for you. How many congressional seats do you think New York is going to lose if Mamdani gets elected? Look, during de Blasio was an open socialist. You had New York lose one congressional seat, but they really should have lost two. But they lost one congressional seat, and Florida picked up a congressional seat. New York people like going to Florida. You watch a Marlins game, you got tons of people in those stands who are cheering for the Mets. The last time I was in Florida, it was really entertaining how many people I saw with Knicks yarmulkes, those things on top of your heads, and other New York gear or gear from other states, other blue states, where they're still fans of the teams, but they left those states to go to Florida. If Mamdani gets elected, that's what's going to happen there, too. But some states are not doing what Florida's doing. In fact, according to Como News, Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat from Hamas, along with Senator Cory Booker, Spartacus himself, introduced the Health Equity and Access Under Law, the HEAL, isn't that clever, for immigrant families, a bill that aims to eliminate barriers to health care for millions of immigrants regardless of their legal status. Now, by my math, Washington State is already spending about $2 billion on illegal immigrants. $2 billion in health care for illegal immigrants. Wait a minute. At the opening of this hour, didn't I say there was a $760 million budget shortfall? Hey, you get rid of the health care for illegal immigrants, you're going to have money left over. They're never going to do that. You know that, and I know that. Why? Because they're so happy these illegal aliens are in our state. Like this guy, a Mexican citizen who was illegally residing in Kent, Washington, was sentenced on Monday to 22 months in federal prison for his role in a drug trafficking conspiracy. Acting U.S. Attorney Teal Luthi Miller announced in a statement that Martin Alonso Pinedo Torres was convicted in U.S. District Court in Seattle for conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Oh, isn't that great? He apparently was lured to the U.S. by a Facebook advertisement offering construction work. Once he arrived, filled out the paperwork for the supposed job, he was allegedly coerced into transporting narcotics. He told the court that members of the drug ring threatened his family, having obtained their personal information. During sentencing, the judge acknowledged that he had no prior criminal record in either Mexico or the United States, except for, coming here illegally. But then court records revealed that Pinedo Torres became involved with drug trafficking already under federal investigation. He entered the country in May 2024 and by June was identified as an active participant in the drug ring. When authorities executed search warrants at his Kent residence on August 2nd, they discovered a cache of narcotics, over 3 kilograms of methamphetamine, nearly a kilogram of fentanyl pills, small amounts of fentanyl powder and cocaine, and more than $12,000 in cash believed to be drug proceeds. Does this sound like a guy who was lured and a guy who was actually one of the people running the ring? Prosecutors have requested a 4-year sentence, citing the devastating impact of fentanyl in the region. In King County alone, there have been 453 overdose deaths as of June 16, 2025, with 380 of those deaths involving fentanyl. Mr. Pinedo's actions pushed highly dangerous, deadly, and addictive substances into the community. By the way, this guy's expected to be deported following the completion of his prison sentence. If he was actually lured, and this was a guy who was a non-willing participant, wouldn't he have rolled over on everybody else? Sounds like he was actually the kingpin. You know what? That's one case. Meanwhile, the Biden administration's Department of Homeland Security allowed a reported Iranian sniper to come into the U.S. in October of 2024 on a marriage visa, according to CBS News. Wait, CBS News is reporting this? Hang on. Let me go to my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Let's see what I got here. Daily Wire, Daily Caller, KVI. I do not have CBS News in this book. According to the outlet, Reebvar Karmi, who was taken into custody on Sunday in northern Alabama, was found with an Islamic Republic of Iran Army ID card. ICE officials told the news outlet that the foreign national served as a sniper in the Iranian military from 2018 to 2021, but was then allowed into the United States on a K-1 visa. A K-1 visa for foreign nationals who are engaged to be married to a U.S. citizen. Great. Wonderful people we're letting into the... You know what, Ari, those are just 2 isolated cases. How about this one here? President Donald Trump said that former President Joe Biden allowed a lot of sleeper cells into the United States during his presidency. So who are these people he let in? Well, according to CBS, in 9 cities nationwide, ICE has arrested 11 Iranian foreign nationals in a 48-hour span. Among those who have been taken into custody is Mehran Makari Sahel, who was arrested near St. Paul, Minnesota. Authorities say he is a former member of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, a military arm of Iran's terrorist regime. He also has admitted connections to Hezbollah. In addition to the arrest of Sahel, there are also others taken into custody that had previous convictions related to crimes of grand larceny to firearm possession. Yusuf Medarino, another Iranian national who is illegally living in the U.S. for 8 years, was arrested. He was added to the terror watch list in February. Another one. There was the sniper we just talked about a minute ago. Yeah, they're really letting in the best and brightest into this country, aren't they? This is who the Biden administration was allowing in. I do love that the mainstream media was saying when Israel was bombing Iran and the U.S. was bombing Iran, the mainstream media goes, what about the sleeper cells? What about the sleeper cells? And then people like me go, so you admit there's illegal aliens in the country who are dangerous? Because you didn't admit that the past 4 years before Trump was in office. I mean, you're a little late, but I question your political motivations in this case. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including the disastrous Snow White movie. Yes, Rachel Zegler's back in the headlines, and so is the bad guy from Karate Kid, thanks to a local event here in Puyallup. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to check out the brand new KVI.com where you can see new articles from me, movie reviews from Mike, so much content from the morning show. Check out all the new stuff we got going on over at KVI.com. Well, Washington, we're making national news again for all the wrong reasons. According to King 5, a Puyallup police officer was forced to intervene after one of the stars of Cobra Kai / Karate Kid allegedly bit a fellow cast member at the site of the Washington State Fair. Martin Kove, known for his roles in The Karate Kid, you might know him as Sensei John Kreese, was at SummerCon in Puyallup when he was approached by his fellow Cobra Kai star Alicia Roche, also known by her stage name Alicia Hannah Kim, not the one from Fox 13. According to Puyallup police report, Kove suddenly grabbed her arm, bit her upper arm so hard it nearly drew blood, and she yelled out in pain. So you might say, bite fast, bite first, bite hard, no mercy. That's what we're going with, because that's not the thing that they say at the Cobra Kai. Hannah Kim and her husband tracked down a Puyallup officer who was assigned to work security for the VIP area at SummerCon to report the bite. According to the... Can you imagine this poor police officer? Can you imagine this for a second? Hang on. Like, dude, all I did was supposed to watch a bunch of you prissy celebrities, and you're telling me the bad guy from Karate Kid bit you. You're telling me the psycho sensei from Karate Kid bit you. You sure he wasn't trying to, like, punch you or something? He got the bloody knuckles? No, he bit you. It's like, dude, all I did was wake up in the morning. When contacted by the officer, Kove admitted he had bitten her arm and told police he did it out of jest and thought he was being funny, and they play fight all the time on the set of Cobra Kai. The officer wrote in his report that the bite mark was visible and already turning blue and bruising. She pulled the officer aside and said she did not want to press charges. She wanted to report a file in case this continues. Something tells me this wasn't friendly on the set of Cobra Kai if she said, I want to make sure this doesn't continue anymore. Oh, Washington. Meanwhile, switching gears to a celebrity story that does not have to do with us, Rachel Zegler has revealed that she saw a psychiatrist, had to take anxiety meds to deal with the backlash of Snow White. Now, mental health is no joke, okay? That's something you got to take care of. But at the same time, lady, you did this to yourself almost. You sabotaged your own movie. You said bad things about your co-stars. You said bad things about Jews. You said a whole bunch of racist comments. You insulted everybody. You kind of dug your own hole on this one. It's kind of hard to feel a little bad for you here. Is this one of these things where you do the sympathy tour so you can have a career again? It's like what they tried to do with the guy from The Flash. Is that what it is? It kind of feels like that. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Bob in Seattle. Bob, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, how you doing? Hey, I retired from the U.S. military, the Army Reserve, after 25 years and worked for the city of Seattle for 28 years and got fired because of COVID. If we renounce our American citizenship and go to Mexico and cross back, can I get health care? Because I don't have health care now because of it.
Well, I think you could probably get a lot more things than just, oh, no, wait, you can't anymore. That would have been under the Biden administration. But you should see what you can get from the city of Seattle, because apparently they give out this stuff like water.
Well, they're not giving it to me. As a matter of fact, they need firefighters so bad, but all of the young guys have reapplied for their jobs, and the Seattle Fire Department won't give them back. But I digress. I'm talking about health care.
Well, no, that's a very important thing. So hang on a second. We've got this issue with first responders. We don't have enough first responders. And what you're telling me is that people have tried to get their jobs back from the Seattle Fire Department, but if they were fired for refusing to get the jab, then all of a sudden they won't take them back. You know, Bob Ferguson had a post yesterday where he was talking about how much he loved firefighters. You know, it'd be fun. I think they should reach out to his office and say, why don't you tell Seattle to hire us back if you love firefighters so much? Oh, wait, he's one of the people who stood by while all you guys were fired, right?
Yeah, well, you know, at least they did it honestly. Oh wait, no, they didn't. They had a plan.
Yeah,
they all agreed they weren't going to grant accommodation, and they weren't going, and that anybody who got the fake vax card, they were going to look the other way.
Yeah, which we now know, and don't forget the Seattle Times, how they covered that story, where they didn't want to cover how we all found out about the fake vax cards. That what that had to do with the fact that they were firing firefighters for not getting the jab, and the firefighters said, wait a minute, you're letting guys run around here with fake vax cards, and they go, well, that's not our problem. So wait a minute, let me make sure I got this right. You're firing all these guys, claiming they're a health hazard, but the guys who are faking it aren't your problem. Yeah, sounds like Seattle only wanted people they could control.
Well, just remember that Chief Scoggins is the guy that was communicating with Raz Simone and guiding the placement of concrete blocks so the fire trucks couldn't get to the Chaz.
I was there that day.
Deleting text after Judge Zille instructed him to preserve his information.
Exactly. And that's a person who's still left over from that time, and he's still the chief of the fire department. Bob, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Remember, you have just under 5 minutes to enter that word I gave you at 4 o'clock. Your next chance to win comes up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning during the morning ride with Phil and Zach. When we come back, my friends, the people who said we were going to get dragged into World War III over Iran, you should never listen to them again, especially the ones on the right. We'll tell you some of the dumb things they said when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to the King County Fair. But before we get to any of that, I am loving some of the video coming out of President Trump at the NATO summit in Amsterdam. There's this one video that I noticed earlier today where it's Donald Trump shaking hands with King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima. I will say I noticed this because her name is Maxima. That's number one. But then this guy, King Willem-Alexander, King Willem-Alexander, is that two first names? Is that one last name? I don't know royalty. I don't know these things. That's so 1775. But what I do like is, usually President Trump shakes somebody's hand and he pulls them into him. This king pulled in Donald Trump. It was really kind of fun to watch. This guy, he likes the president, but he's also establishing where he is in the pecking order, puts his hand on Donald Trump's elbow. It's kind of, wow. I've never seen that with any world leader before. And then Queen Maxima. That woman has a grip, has a strong handshake. You could tell it wasn't one of those, hey, here's my hand, kiss my hand kind of deals. That was a hardcore shake. That's a tough woman right there. Pretty fun to watch. What's also fun to watch is, remember how much all these people said they hated Donald Trump? Not the king and queen of the Netherlands. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But put it this way. Zelensky wore a suit. Zelensky wore a suit to this. When's the last time you saw Zelensky wearing a suit? He's getting out of the limo. He pulls up, and you can tell this guy's not used to wearing a jacket, that he's trying to get comfortable in the jacket, but it shows who the leader of the free world is. And also, while all this was going on, one of the heads of NATO, the head of NATO, the secretary of NATO, was actually saying, hey, you know what? We got to talk about the president because he's doing a great job in leadership, and now NATO's going to kick in more money so the U.S. doesn't have to keep kicking in all this money.
It will also be a massive achievement in making NATO fairer. For decades, the United States sought to get Europe to truly step up. Now, European allies and Canada will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So let me salute President Trump's long-standing leadership in calling for NATO to increase defense spending. Today, I am pleased to announce that NATO has already added an additional $1 trillion in defense spending over the past decade. Mr. President, dear Donald, that is thanks to you pushing us. And tomorrow we will build on that foundation and add trillions more in defense spending, because we need to do this.
Peace through strength. True leadership, not just write a check to whoever wants it. And this is coming right off of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Iran's nuclear program has been destroyed. Those reports you're hearing from CNN about, oh, they only set it back a couple months. Wait a minute. CNN, literally just a couple days ago, you guys were saying they're not days away from this. They're years away from a nuclear weapon. Well, then how could that be true after these things got bombed? Either you were lying then when you said they're nowhere near a nuclear weapon, or you're lying now. Which one is it? Meanwhile, President Trump was being asked aboard Air Force One about the ceasefire.
Breaking news. Everything good. Israel, as you know, turned back. They didn't do that raid this morning, fortunately. That was a big thing. Appreciate it. They had a lot of planes going, and they were going to do something, and they didn't do it. We're happy about that. Very happy about that. So the ceasefire is very much in effect, and I think we're going to keep it there for a long time.
So what's the president talking about? The ceasefire yesterday, after it was announced, both sides in the hours leading up to a ceasefire tried to get in their last lick. So Israel was bombing the hell out of military targets, and Iran was launching ballistic missiles at civilian targets. One of them hit an apartment building in Beersheba, and it killed 4 people, a family hiding in a bomb shelter. So Israel was going to retaliate, especially because Iran kept launching after the ceasefire, which is something a lot of these Arab countries do. We see it with Gaza all the time. This is stuff we used to see out of Lebanon with Hezbollah. So what happened was Israel was going to respond, and President Trump apparently got into a screaming match with Bibi Netanyahu telling him not to respond. There is a case to be made. As much as I support Israel, there is a case to be made for being the grown-up in the room, but at the same time, you can't not respond in the Middle East. Those are two things that you have to decide which one weighs out. And now here, what's Israel really going to hit? They took out everything. There's almost nothing left, but at the same time, you can't not respond. It's a tough situation to be in. Meanwhile, what else did the president have to say?
President, did Iran make any commitments yesterday about uranium enrichment?
About what?
About uranium enrichment.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders, and they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So did they
the
promise?
last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
So that's President Trump sending a not-so-subtle signal. He's saying, if you want to be trading partners with us, we'll be your best trading partners. We'll make deals. I made deals with everybody else in the Middle East. We'll make deals with you, too. Even after we just bombed your country, we will make deals with you. And we're not going to let you have a nuclear weapon. So, do you want to change your tactics, guys? Perhaps. By the way, can you ever envision Joe Biden doing any of these press conferences on Air Force One? Donald Trump just wanders to the back of the plane where the press is hanging out. Hello, how you doing? I got a nap. I'm not dropping the F-bomb anymore like I was this morning. I'm a lot happier, had a Diet Coke. So he comes to the back of the plane. He's just hanging out with the press. You remember when we used to have these awful press conferences with Karine Jean-Pierre where she sounded even less prepared than she did when she had her binder aboard Air Force One? They were embarrassingly bad. President Trump is taking all the questions right there. I don't even know where Caroline Leavitt is during all this.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people. And they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job.
That's a not-so-subtle message also. It's a message of, I don't want regime change, but if you Iranians do regime change on your own and realize the resources that your country has, then we're going to be your best trading partners. Look, the Ayatollah is crying somewhere right now. Yeah, he's pretending to be all strong. He is crying in a bunker somewhere, right into his Fruit Loops. Assuming they still have Fruit Loops and RFK Jr. didn't take him away or any of the food dye. So why? Because he has no nuclear program. You know who's probably crying even more? I haven't seen Barack Obama post since this whole thing started. Haven't seen it at all. Oh, they destroyed Barack Obama's nuclear program and Joe Biden's nuclear program. They took out the program. They gave them the money to build. How much do you think this is going to help U.S. military recruiting? Everybody's going to want to, no more flying F-14s, right? It's not that. No more flying F-18s. I want to fly a B-2 bomber.
And I will tell you, the last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons. They don't even want to think about nuclear. And our B-2 pilots made this all possible. They had a magnificent hit in the dark of night with no moon, no light, no nothing. They hit the target perfectly, wiped it out. And the press is very disrespectful. I saw CNN fake news going, well, maybe it wasn't a perfect hit. It was perfect. They said maybe it did destroy it. We agree it did destroy it, but maybe it could have destroyed it more. No, it couldn't have destroyed it more. Everyone hit. And it's very disrespectful to those great geniuses and patriots that flew those planes through tremendous danger. So CNN and MSDNC are a disgrace. And so are the others. I mean, they're pretty much all in disgrace.
He's right, by the way. He's right. You can't last week be saying, oh, no, they're nowhere near to getting a nuclear bomb, too. Hey, they're going to get a nuclear bomb in just a couple days because that whole bombing thing didn't really do anything. Guys, make up your minds. Make up your minds. That's why I don't believe you. Look, I looked at those satellite pictures, and I'm not an expert in satellite imagery, I will admit. But at the same time, you can see how the ground has shifted. And I don't mean they moved some sand around. You can see where areas have caved in. Do you realize how much rubble's down there? Do you realize how much sand is in the way? Do you realize what it'll take to get down to those facilities if any part of them is intact? And the equipment is very, very sensitive. So if all that stuff comes down on it, it destroyed the equipment. In fact, they're worried these fools are going to start digging down there and find some of the uranium. Israel had an intelligence report today because everybody's been talking about, did those 16 trucks take all the uranium with them before the U.S. bombed the facilities? Israel is now saying that they think the uranium is under the rubble of the destruction. If you start disturbing all that, you may have a radiological disaster on your hands. Now, I do love this question because Trump was flying to the NATO summit. You think he's going to meet with Zelensky?
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
He's right. Should have never been there. But right now, the problem isn't Zelensky. The problem is Putin. They fixed everything with Zelensky. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It was. By the way, did you notice this, Mike? I don't know if you noticed this. What has Bibi Netanyahu been saying the whole time? I'd like to thank President Trump and the United States of America. Thank you. You're the best friend we ever had. Best friend ever. Yeah, you say thank you when the U.S. helps you out. That's the polite thing to do. By the way, somebody slipped a copy of the prayer Bibi Netanyahu said at the Western Wall after the United States bombed Iran and bombed the nuclear facilities. I was reading it in the Hebrew, and I recognized it. It's a prayer that we say every single Saturday in synagogue for the health and success of the President of the United States and the U.S. government. We say it regardless of who the president is. It just says the president and government officials and the United States. But they tailored this prayer, they changed a few words in it to be specifically about Donald Trump. And my favorite part is your Hebrew name is your name, son of your father. That's how they refer to you. So what's funny is in Hebrew, it had Donald Trump, son of Fred Trump. Which was it's just funny to see that in a different language. It just kind of cracks me up. Something else here. Donald Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Representative Buddy Carter has officially nominated President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize in response to his efforts to bring about peace between Israel and Iran. You remember Pakistan nominated him last week for him stopping the war between Pakistan and India? And then they're like, wait, no. Now that you're bombing Iran, we want no part of this? President Trump has completely reshaped the Middle East. Israel has helped completely reshape the Middle East. In a letter obtained by Fox News that was sent to the chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, Jorgen Watney Friedness, Carter wrote, as a member of the United States Congress, I write to formally nominate President Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States, for the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his extraordinary and historic role in brokering an end to the armed conflict between Israel and Iran and preventing the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism from obtaining the most lethal weapon on the planet. Carter wrote that the world stood on the precipice of a dangerous and potentially region-destabilizing war in the recent weeks, and despite this, President Trump took bold action to ultimately champion peace through strength and facilitate a ceasefire framework that brought hostilities to a halt. In a statement that has since reverberated around the globe, President Trump announced the terms of a complete and total ceasefire agreement, commending both Israel and Iran for their courage to end the war. His message about mutual respect and peace will now result in full cessation of military activity, no further military escalation, and preservation of thousands, if not millions, of lives throughout the Middle East and around the globe. Carter wrote that Trump's influence had been instrumental in forging a swift agreement that many believed to be impossible and took bold, decisive actions to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions and ensure that the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism remains incapable of acquiring a nuclear weapon. His leadership at this moment exemplifies the very ideals that the Nobel Peace Prize seeks to recognize: the pursuit of peace, the prevention of war, and the advancement of international harmony. Funny that's named after a guy who discovered dynamite. I just find that one line there very, very entertaining. This comes after Pakistan nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize over the weekend in response to his decisive diplomatic intervention and violence that broke out between India and Pakistan earlier this year. Pakistan's government said in a statement, at a moment of heightened regional turbulence, President Trump demonstrated great strategic foresight and stellar statesmanship through robust diplomatic engagement with both Islamabad and New Delhi. Trump helped in averting a broader conflict between the two nuclear states that would have had catastrophic consequences for millions of people in the region and beyond. This intervention stands as a testament to his role as a genuine peacemaker and his commitment to conflict resolution through dialogue. I got a question for the audience. Do you think he's ever going to get the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize? They didn't give it to him after the Abraham Accords. Do you think they're actually going to give it to him after he stopped 2 nuclear wars, if not more, between India and Pakistan and between Israel and Iran? Do you think he will ever get the recognition he deserves? Look, I think that Israel should have continued until the Ayatollah is gone. That's a personal thing. But I am very, very happy with the results so far. No nuclear Iran, their military completely obliterated, This is huge, huge news. You know what would be great? Imagine another signing on the White House lawn where you have Israel and Saudi Arabia and all the Abraham Accord partners with Bahrain and the Emirates and Morocco and everybody else. Can you imagine if there's actually peace in the Middle East because of all this? You think Kamala Harris could have done this? If this had happened with Kamala Harris, you know where it would be right now? There'd still be even more hostages in Gaza. They'd be saying, no, you can't do that. We're going to cut off your weapons supplies. They're going to be doing whatever the activist wants. Iran would probably have a nuclear weapon by now. How many other problems can you think of if Kamala Harris was president of the United States? God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. Meanwhile, Israel's prime minister gave a formal statement. He said the ceasefire was scheduled to take effect at 7 a.m. At 3 a.m., Israel launched a powerful strike in the heart of Tehran, targeting regime infrastructure and eliminating hundreds of the terrorists and Iranian security personnel. Shortly before the ceasefire took effect, Iran fired a barrage of missiles, one of which struck Beersheba and claimed the lives of 4 Israeli civilians. At 7 a.m., the ceasefire came into effect. However, at 7:06 a.m., Iran launched another missile toward Israeli territory, followed by 2 more missiles at 10:25 a.m. All 3 were intercepted and landed in open areas, causing no casualties or damage. In response to these violations, the Israel Air Force destroyed a radar installation near Tehran. Following a phone call between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israel refrained from carrying out additional strikes. During the conversation, President Trump conveyed his deep appreciation for Israel, which he said had accomplished all of the war's objectives. The president also expressed confidence in the stability of the ceasefire. I want you to think about that for a second. Accomplished all of the war's objectives. When was the last time there was a war that was fought to be won in this world? Everything's just a get everybody back to their corners. Everything's just a, well, it escalates and then it comes back down. When was the last time we actually had a war which people fought to win? When was the last time? I can't actually think of one. But when was the last time we actually had that? And maybe if the U.S. had a leader like Donald Trump, we wouldn't have had the war between Ukraine and Russia. Maybe now, Putin, who's been talking to Trump the past few days, I love how Putin says, do you want me to solve this problem in Iran? Yeah, let's call Putin for that. Yeah, Medvedev, the former president of Russia, was talking about supplying Iran with nuclear weapons now that they lost all theirs until President Trump said, yeah, that's not going to happen. We're not going to allow that. And then he starts walking back his statements. This is what peace through strength looks like. Something else, by the way. Tucker Carlson, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these quote-unquote leaders of MAGA, leaders of the Republican Party, they were wrong about everything. Every single thing they said. Oh, we're not dying for Israel. Oh, we're going to get sucked into World War III. No, every single thing they said was wrong. Every single thing. And I was calling it out the entire time. Every single thing. None of them should be taken seriously ever again. Do you think it's anti-Semitism? Do you think it's ignorance? Do you think it's clickbait? Do you think somebody's lining their pockets? What do you think it is that could get these guys to be that wrong? That wrong on so many things. It's almost intentional or blinded by stupidity. I'm not sure which one it is. But anybody who considers these guys thought leaders in the Republican Party, nope. And none of them have said they were wrong. They're all now trying to pivot like, oh, Donald Trump, you're the greatest president. You did everything we said. No. He did the opposite of everything you said, and we won a decisive victory against Iran, becoming a nuclear power. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you to Israel for saving the world. This is a historic moment. If only we could figure out what to do with the Ayatollah, things might be even better. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Is In-N-Out Burger coming to Seattle? One sign sent the internet a Twitter. We'll have the details for you when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the King County Fair. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. A few years ago, I played a really, really mean trick on people in Seward Park. So somebody had digitally created the graphic. I did not make the graphic. But there was this abandoned, unoccupied, vacant grocery store that was really run down in South Seattle off of Rainier Avenue. And somebody in one of the neighborhood groups had photoshopped a Trader Joe's sign onto this grocery store. And you know that women go crazy when there's a Trader Joe's. I love it. Look, I like their meat. They have the best kosher steaks in town. Really do. I love their... Anytime I'm in a Trader Joe's and they have kosher steaks, I go grab all of them. Sorry, other Jews. I take your kosher steaks. I will buy all of them that are there. It's not like there's a lot. There's like 6. And I take all of them and I take them home because they are delicious. But I will say this. So what happens is I saw this image, I took it, I shared it on social media in a few of the kosher groups and a few of the other groups, and people got very, very excited, and nobody bothered to look at the fact that it was April 1st. To this day, I have people who are still mad at me and make fun of me about doing that. I'm like, hey, I got you all. You all fell for that. There were literally women driving by and texting the group or messaging in the group going, oh, I just drove by. The sign's not there anymore. Has it changed? Is something going on? I was dying. I was absolutely dying. Loving every minute of it. But unfortunately, something similar happened here in Seattle. According to the Seattle Times, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Seattle, but no, contrary to buzzing rumors you might have seen on social media over the weekend, the popular California burger chain In-N-Out is not opening a location in Wallingford. The rumor began last week after a photo circulated the Seattle-centric Reddit, Instagram, and other social media outlets of a poster with the In-N-Out logo above the words "Coming Soon 2026" that appeared to be plastered on the wall of the former Aqua Serene Hydro Gardens. Seattle storefront on Stone Way in Wallingford. The mere suggestion that In-N-Out might be expanding to Seattle was the subject of excited speculation on social media. The Aqua Serene Hydro Garden shop space in Wallingford has been vacant since 2018, and a land use application for a 7-story, 230-unit apartment building with retail was approved in March. Could it finally be our time, wondered ardent In-N-Out fans in Seattle. The closest In-N-Out to Seattle at the moment is the Kaiser, Oregon location, which is more than 200 miles from the metro area. Well, given that they're bailing on California and Oakland, do you really see them opening up in Seattle? By Monday afternoon, the poster in the Wallingford storefront had been removed. Mike Abate, vice president of the store development for In-N-Out, cleared up the rumors with a statement to the Seattle Times on Monday. While we very much look forward to opening the first In-N-Out burger location in the state of Washington soon, unfortunately, any information regarding plans to open a location in the Seattle area is inaccurate. So that's just, they got him. They got him with that one. That one's kind of funny. Meanwhile, 6 Portland Antifa militants have been federally charged over the attacks at the ICE facility. And these winners look exactly how you think they would look. I see multiple different hair colorings. I see people confused about gender. Yeah, this seems about right. According to the Post-Millennial on Friday, the Department of Justice charged 6 additional Antifa-affiliated individuals accused of carrying out criminal acts during anti-ICE direct actions at the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Facility in Portland, Oregon. The defendants were arraigned in U.S. District Court on June 20th. Charges include assaulting federal police officers, refusing to comply with police orders, blinding officers with high-powered lasers, and attempting to trap federal agents inside the ICE facility. The incidents occurred on June 18th and June 19th. This is on top of the federal charges filed against several Portland Antifa members within the last week. The cases are being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney for the District of Oregon. Samuel Tate Berry, 29, a trans Antifa militant and repeat riot offender, has been charged by criminal complaint with assaulting a federal officer and failure to comply with official signs and directions. According to the FBI complaint, Berry allegedly struck a BORTAC agent over the head with a shield. I think they mean those plastic garbage can things. While federal officers moved in to clear an illicit blockade that was blocking the driveway entrance to the ICE facility on June 18th. When a DHS Federal Protective Service inspector attempted to take Berry into custody, Berry allegedly resisted arrest and kicked the FPS officer in the throat, According to court filings, a warrant was issued for his arrest on June 19th. Now, what's funny is this fellow, and I use that term loosely, is wearing makeup, but it's put on that the way Steve Buscemi put it on in Billy Madison. That's what this guy looks like. And his hair is something, and he's wearing women's glasses. This doesn't strike me as a trans thing. This strikes me as somebody who's got severe mental issues and severe problems. He recently lived in Gerhardt, Seaside, as well as Kelso, and was arrested during the 2020 anti-police riots that desecrated a large corridor of Portland for months. An ongoing long-term Antifa activist. On June 8th, 2020, Berry was apprehended for allegedly throwing projectiles at police officers during a BLM Antifa direct action. He was booked into the Multnomah County Jail on charges including second-degree disorderly conduct, third-degree criminal mischief. The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office dropped the charges the following day. That was back when they had the guy who didn't prosecute any crimes whatsoever, especially against the Antifa guys, and just sent them back to the battlefront. Andrew James Beeson of Beaverton, Oregon, has been charged with failing to obey a lawful order on June 18th. By the way, this guy's 53 years old. You have better things to be doing with your time? He allegedly failed to obey police orders when federal officers rushed in to dismantle a second barricade that had been erected, which blocked the exit to the ICE facility. By the way, if you've been watching the video from Jonathan Cho and Katie Daviscourt, you know what you notice? There are people who get out of there right away. They're not the diehards. And then there are the diehards that fight with the cops. You know who they end up arresting? The diehards who fight with the cops. Beeson has a criminal history that includes a 2022 harassment conviction in Washington County. He was sentenced to 18 months of probation for the harassment charge. What a group of winners. Liam Harris Hoopus, 22, of Vancouver, Washington, has been charged with creating a hazard on federal property. This guy looks like a skunk. He's got a very weird hairstyle that makes him look like a skunk. On June 19th, after several dozen protesters gathered at the ICE facility, Hoopus allegedly made an effort to trap federal officers inside the building. He was using a drill and screws on plywood doors affixed to the building's exterior in an attempt to prevent federal officers from exiting the building. What a winner. What a winner. Nokomis Lee of Grand Road, Oregon, has been charged with failing to obey a lawful order. Refused to comply with police demands when federal officers moved in to dismantle the same blockade. Juniper Perry Weed, yes, that's actually somebody's name, who also resides in Astoria, was arrested on charges including assaulting a federal officer and failure to comply with official signs and directions. This one has blue and purple hair. Weed flailed her arms violently in an attempt to break free, causing one of the officers to fall to the ground and incur minor knee injuries. Officer regained control over Weed, continued walking towards the ICE facility while being escorted to the holding area. Weed became combative and flailed violently once more, causing an officer to fall to the ground again. That's not very ladylike. The ICE facility has been the target of persistent attacks since about June 6, when Antifa and leftist agitators mobilized to occupy the facility in solidarity with the Los Angeles anti-ICE rioters. Man, I wonder if this is why the Seattle ones aren't screwing around anymore, because they knew that Seattle would be on Donald Trump's list, and they're seeing what's happening down in Portland. I wonder if they're just taking the fight to Portland. We'll follow this story with great interest. When we come back, my friends, a terrorist who is released by an activist judge goes right back to the front lines, just like their Antifa buddies. But this time it's in New York. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, it looks like Columbia and Harvard are up to their old tricks. You would think after losing that much federal funding, you guys might have learned your lesson, but no. Mahmoud Khalil, who was released by an activist judge. This is a guy who was working with Hamas in distributing their propaganda. This is a guy who led the riots targeting Jews at Columbia. This is a guy who led the occupation of a building trapping Hispanic and African-American janitors in a building at Columbia and vandalizing the property. This is a guy who lied on his visa application, is, I believe, from Syria, but identifies as a Palestinian. So that guy just got out of jail. And you would think, remember all the interviews with his wife? Oh, my husband, oh, our child, you would think. A guy who just got out of jail would want to spend some time with his wife and child. Nope. First stop, him and AOC and his wife wearing the keffiyeh went right back to Columbia University. Hang on a second. Can we just be real about things for a second? Let's say you've been in the clink for a while. You've been in the slammer for a little while, even if it's a month or two. Don't you want to get a hamburger? Don't you want to, like, have a scotch? Oh, wait, you're Muslim. You're not going to have a scotch. All right. Don't you want to, like, go hang out with your wife and kid? Nope. Right back to the battlefield. Right back to the front. And ABC is treating him like he's a conquering hero. What do you say during the interview with them?
There's been an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents in recent months. We talk about the Israeli embassy staffers who were murdered, the firebombing at a pro-Israeli rally, Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, whose home was set on fire. And in response to that, he said, it is never okay to use violence to express yourself. Would you agree?
Definitely. Violence is not okay.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Excuse me. Aren't you the guy who led violent riots at Columbia? Aren't you the guy that the janitors had to fight their way out like they were in Die Hard out of the building you occupied? Aren't you guys the ones that attacked Jews and anybody who disagreed with you on campus? Violence is not the way. Violence is not the way. Just making sure I got that.
What's happening is a direct result of the U.S. unconditional support to Israel.
Whoa. So it's okay to assault Jews on campus because the U.S. supports Israel. You just heard him say that, right? I didn't make that up. That's literally what the dude just said. What other pearls of anti-Semitism are we getting from this guy?
People want to be heard, and unfortunately they are refusing to violence to do that, which is...
You're going to violence to do that. You're the one doing it. It's not somebody else doing it. You're the one doing it. The ABC anchor call this guy out at all?
It's not okay, but these are desperate attempts to be heard. Anti-Semitism is not okay. It shouldn't be okay. Any form of hatred, any form of racism should not be okay.
So there is no place, you would say, for anti-Semitism in the pro-Palestinian movement?
There's no... I've already said that multiple times. There's no place for any form of racism.
Then why are you distributing material from Hamas that calls for violence? Why are you actively participating in violence yourself? Why are you wrapping yourself in the gear of a violent terrorist organization? But there's no place for violence.
Including anti-blackness, anti-Semitism in the Palestine movement. The Jewish students and people in general are integral, in the United States, are an integral part of the Palestinian movement.
Then why do you keep beating them up? You treat all your friends that way? Oh, you guys are really, really charming there, aren't you? Meanwhile, other insanity around here, a judge, another lefty judge, has blocked the Trump administration's attempt to bar foreign students from Harvard. This thing's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. It is. U.S. District Judge Allison Burroughs issued the ruling on Monday granting Harvard's request for a temporary restraining order that halts the Department of Homeland Security from revoking the university's certification to host foreign students under the Student and Exchange Visitor Program. Without the certification, Harvard would be unable to enroll international students or issue the paperwork required for their student visas, effectively forcing nearly 7,000 students to leave the country or face legal jeopardy. Don't threaten me with a good time. In her decision, Burroughs said the government's actions appear to target Harvard because of its perceived opposition to the administration's policies and rhetoric. No, that's not why. It's because your foreign students are aligning with a terrorist group. Maybe that's not the best and brightest. We went on Harvard's campus. You want a scary statistic for a second here? Harvard, their student population used to be 25% Jewish. 25% Jewish. Do you know what it is now? 4%. 4%. Jews don't want to go there anymore because it just ain't safe. So you guys have a problem on your campus, and I love how Harvard is clinging to this. Like, well, if we're just more anti-Semitic, if we're just more racist, if we're more discriminatory, then maybe we'll get our federal funding back. Do you realize the amount of money they have to spend on these legal cases to fight the U.S. government on top of everything else? This is going to be really fun when it gets to the Supreme Court, and I'm really curious what's going to happen. What do you think is going to happen? I can see this going either way. I know what the law is. You want federal dollars, you got to follow federal law. But at the same time, we've been thrown some curveballs by the Supreme Court before. I'm very curious how all this is going to shake out. When we come back, only good news to wrap up the day. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to the King County Fair. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, I saw this story and put a smile on my face. Tom Cruise may be crazy about Scientology and all that kind of stuff, but we love him for the Hollywood stuff. And there's a new article talking about the decades-long friendship between him and Brad Pitt. Mike found this one over from Como News, talking about how they've had friendly competition the entire time. Don't forget, back in the 90s, the two starred together in Interview with a Vampire, which I still can't decide if I like that movie or not. I don't know. It's good. It's not good. It's kind of creepy. I don't know if I like that movie or not. But while promoting the new Formula One racing film F1 the movie, Pitt dished on his decades-long competition with Tom Cruise. The powerhouse actors famously starred in 1994's Interview with a Vampire and used to go go-kart racing. Now that Pitt's done some professional race car driving in the new action film, he's ready to put the pedal to the metal with Cruise. Tom and I got to get back out there, he said. The last time we went there, he pit me. He took me out on the corner. I'm still bitter about it 30 years later. So how does Pitt want to settle the score? A rematch, of course. The actor's only stipulation, no death-defying stunts. So does that mean you're not driving Formula One cars? Wait a second. Tom Cruise drove the NASCAR. He drove the NASCAR in the Days of Thunder. So are we going to settle this on the track where it really counts? By the way, you could do a charity event and sell tickets to that and make serious bucks. So you put Brad Pitt versus Tom Cruise in some kind of star-studded for a good cause. Wait, what if they raise money for, anti-ICE or something? No. Like some real good cause. Something really good. So Pitt said, if I don't have to hang from biplanes and swim through submarines, then I'll consider it. He did his own stunt driving in Formula One track with professional racers who worked as producers on F1. During the film's premiere in Mexico City, Pitt made it clear he doesn't want any aircraft involved in the... Well, has Brad Pitt been in any aircraft-related movies with stunts? I don't remember any of those. Thelma and Louise doesn't count. He's not the one who took the car off the cliff. That doesn't count. I can't think of any aircraft-related things Brad Pitt... Super dead. Okay, what about baseball? Tom Cruise played baseball in A Few Good Men. Brad Pitt was in Moneyball. He played a former... That's a fair one, right? We'll throw that one out there. Singing. Tom Cruise did Rock of Ages. I don't remember Brad Pitt ever doing the singing. I can't think of anything. Watch, now my text line's going to blow up. People are like, how can you not remember this movie? I can't remember anything of that nature. No, I think the race car is the way to go. I think that is definitely the best way to go, the race car driving. I think that's how you settle things between the two of them. So, when he does something again that's on the ground, Pitt said he told E! News that's when he'll do it. He says, we think one condition is fair enough since Cruise, who portrays spy agent Ethan Hunt, has had plenty of practice since 1996, running and diving off aircraft in all 7 Mission Impossible movies. In the same interview with Extra, Pitt reveals that he and Cruise were set to star opposite each other in Ford versus Ferrari, where Pitt would have played Ken Miles, ultimately portrayed by Christian Bale, while Cruise would have played Carroll Shelby, portrayed by Matt Damon. Ironically, the sports drama would have been directed by F1's Joseph Kosinski, the same guy who directed Top Gun Maverick. But he told GQ the studio didn't have enough budget for the superstar actors, so they said, all right, who else we got from Ocean's 11? Oh, Matt Damon's next. Let's just get him. The truth is, I don't think they would have been good in that movie.
That would not be a better movie.
No.
Because it would be distracted by the star power.
Right. I think one of the things about Ford versus Ferrari was you were able to get past that it was Matt Damon. I could see Carroll Shelby, even though I'm looking at Matt Damon. He did a great job in that. And same thing with Christian Bale. I could see Ken Miles. I didn't see Batman there. That wasn't how I looked at it. And I love Ford versus Ferrari. That's one of those movies I will watch anytime, anywhere.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great. And the thing that those two actors that we saw in the movie, Matt Damon and Christian Bale, is like there is a believable humility to them that you don't get from a Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt together in the same movie.
Yes.
I mean, because the stars just burn too bright.
Yes,
that kind of
I
thing.
agree.
It would be in our review of F1, I said that it's a Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then Ford versus Ferrari would become, is it a Brad Pitt movie? Is it a Tom Cruise movie? And turns out it just needs to be a movie about the story of these guys and what they did out on the track, as opposed to being a star vehicle.
Right, because when I see Brad Pitt in a movie, just like you just said, I see Brad Pitt standing there. He's a good actor, but I still see Brad Pitt standing there. With Tom Cruise, it's Tom Cruise, right? He's also Ethan Hunt. It's Tom Cruise. I get that. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, the only way those two guys now can share the screen together, if it is some kind of like Ocean's 11 type of thing, where like everybody is a megastar. That way there's equal footing. Other than that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think things worked out for the best. Speaking of things working out for the best, hopefully they work out for the best for you today with your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA steak and USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken, fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans at Madrona Financial and CPAs. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away 4 tickets to the King County Fair, July 17th through 20th. Grab your boots, get your tickets now for the King County Fair. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to the King County Fair. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for us today. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.